George Taliaferro and Buddy Young were not allowed to live with the rest of the players. They had to live in a section of Dallas that there were still 12 unsolved house bombings for Black families that had dared to move just a little bit closer to white Dallas. And those bombings no one was ever convicted of those bombings. And that's the atmosphere they have to move into while playing professional football.
You've reached American History Hotline. You ask the questions, we get the answers. Leave a message.
Hey there, American History Hotliners. Bob Crawford here. Thrilled to be joining you again for another episode of American History Hotline, the show where you ask the questions. And the best way to get us a question is to record a video or a voice memo on your phone and email it to AmericanHistoryHotline@gmail.com. That's AmericanHistoryHotline@gmail.com. Okay, today's question is about one of my favorite topics in the whole world, football, and just in time for the Super Bowl. Here to help me answer this question today is David Fleming, author of the book, A Big Mess in Texas. Let me hold it up for the video. Author of the book, A Big Mess in Texas, The Miraculous, Disastrous 1952 Dallas Texans, and the craziest untold story in NFL history. David, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure, Bob. Thanks for having me. I can see I am in the right place because of your sweatshirt, so I like it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am wearing a throwback Los Angeles Rams sweatshirt. Okay, so here's the question we're hoping you can help us answer. It comes from Kathy in Troy, New York. She says, I feel like we all know the story of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier in baseball, but what about integration of other sports like football? How did that happen? So, David, I want to talk about the role of the Dallas Texans in integration, but let's start with some context. First, how did we even stumble across this NFL team that's been called one of the worst of all time? Speaking of the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, don't be that hard on yourself for the Rams.
We're doing better than like Cleveland.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's my answer. So I grew up outside of Detroit, and my father's side of the family is from Cleveland. And so for the longest time, I have these poor, sorry NFL fans, Detroit Lions fans and Cleveland Browns fans. And it was right after the Browns they became the second team in history after the Lions to go winless throughout an entire season. I'm pretty sure it was 2017. And trying to be a good son, a good cousin, a good nephew, I started researching if the Browns or the Lions truly were the worst team to ever play in the NFL. And that is when I stumbled upon this incredible story of this team that, even though I'd covered the NFL on a national level for 30 years, I had no idea that they existed. And it was the 1952 Dallas Texans, the last NFL team to go bankrupt. It's a crazy story.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
What's up, fam? It's sports journalist Ari Chambers.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Sam J.
And we're the hosts of Everyone Watches Women's Sports, a new podcast from Together.
We're breaking down the biggest headlines, the viral moments, and the stories everyone's talking about across women's sports.
From game-changing performances to culture-shifting conversations, we'll give you our takes, our debates, and a few laughs along the way.
Because everyone watches women's sports. Listen to Everyone Watches Women's Sports
on the iHeartRadio app,
Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Joy is essential, and it's also elusive. But now, there's a new and exciting way to start your journey toward a more joyful existence. Joy 101. It's a new podcast hosted by me, Hoda Kotb. If you're craving inspiration to maximize your joy, tune into these candid, uplifting, and moving on-air chats. Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Joy 101, and listen now. Joy 101 with Hoda Kotb is presented by CVS.
I'm Jake Brennan, and on the Disgraceland podcast, I explore the wild lives of rock stars and unbelievable true crime stories from music history. These are the stories you haven't heard, the kind you'll end up telling someone else. Like the time Paul McCartney spent in a notorious prison, or the bizarre crime Lady Gaga is accused of, or that time Blondie's Debbie Harry escaped Ted Bundy. Listen to Disgraceland on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
My first guest is Paris Hilton, Shakira, Luke, and Yerin. Have surprises?
Many surprises.
Welcome to the Sweet 305 podcast, where the group chat comes to life.
What up? You're the only person I know that loves a yellow Starburst.
It's lemonade.
This is Sweet 305. Here, oversharing is encouraged. Listen to Sweet 305 with Lele Pons on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So you focus on the Texans and this 1952 season. Can you paint a picture of this era, the players, the fans, what's happening historically at this time?
Oh yeah, I mean, for people who are, it's going to be hard for like modern day fans to put this this team and this era in context. But to me, it was sort of the television money that changed the NFL and grew it into sort of this national pastime and this sort of like button down mega billion-dollar corporation. That money kicked in the late 50s. And there's a whole great story behind that. But before that television revenue kicked in, most people don't know that the NFL was this chaotic, colorful, violent league that people literally didn't know from week to week, month to month, if it would survive as a athletic as a pro professional sports league. And I know it's hard for people to understand that, but 31 of the first 43 NFL franchises went bankrupt, and the last of them was the 1952 Dallas Texans, who did it in short order and with a lot of drinking and partying and fun along the way.
So you focus on the Texans and this 1952 season. Can you paint a picture of this era, the players, the fans, what's happening historically at this time?
Oh yeah, I mean, for people who are, it's going to be hard for like modern day fans to put this this team and this era in context. But to me, it was sort of the television money that changed the NFL and grew it into sort of this national pastime and this sort of like button down mega billion-dollar corporation. That money kicked in the late 50s. And there's a whole great story behind that. But before that television revenue kicked in, most people don't know that the NFL was this chaotic, colorful, violent league that people literally didn't know from week to week, month to month, if it would survive as a athletic as a pro professional sports league. And I know it's hard for people to understand that, but 31 of the first 43 NFL franchises went bankrupt, and the last of them was the 1952 Dallas Texans, who did it in short order and with a lot of drinking and partying and fun along the way.
It's like the Animal House, reading your book. It's like very much like the Animal House of football, or football was Animal House, which, you mentioned this is professional sports. At the time, did I read correctly in your book? Am I recalling this right? That it was the NFL was like kind of the understudy to college football. Like college football was legitimate, and the NFL was kind of like this other thing.
Oh, exactly. I don't even think the NFL was, I think Art Donovan, one of the players on this team and a iconic character in NFL history. He said something like, in the 50s, the NFL was like, they were behind college football, baseball, boxing, horse racing, and I think Art even threw in synchronized swimming. So it was just people just didn't take it seriously, and people didn't. They thought it was they thought it was not dignified to play for money, and people definitely did not like that the games were on Sunday too.
All right, so you mentioned Art Donovan, who is one of the most colorful characters in all of NFL, maybe all of sports history. Tell us about Art Donovan.
Yeah, so he's one of the many forgotten characters who were actually on this team. And I think everyone remembers Art Donovan. He was sort of like, later in life, he became almost like the football version of Bob Uecker.
Right.
He was on David Letterman. He was part of that Tastes Great, Less Filling, Miller Lite commercials. He was sort of this... He was a truth teller about this era of the NFL, and people loved him for it because he just didn't hold back. But at the same time, I think he may have been the first interior defensive lineman voted into the Hall of Fame. And people know him because he went on to sort of anchor those great Baltimore Colts teams with Johnny Unitas and Gino Marchetti. But yeah, he got his start in Dallas in 1952, and Art said even with all the other accomplishments and all the other crazy things he had done, his favorite season ever was in Dallas. He said he wouldn't trade it for $1 million.
So you name checked him. We need to talk about him, Gino Marchetti.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, imagine doing I uncovered this story. I'm like, oh, I wonder who's on this team. And you look through it and you're going, I don't know if anybody's going to care about this team. And then the top rookie on the Dallas Texans was Gino Marchetti, arguably the greatest defensive player in NFL history. His rookie season was with the Dallas Texans, and it was such a wild, crazy season. And he writes, and one of the last interviews he gave, it wasn't to me, but was on his rookie season in Dallas. And he was so disappointed by how disorganized it was and how the checks bounced and how nobody knew who he was or even who the team was, that he thought for a while about quitting football and going back to San Francisco. But thank goodness he didn't.
So we're talking about how this team was so bad, this 1952 Dallas Texans, but they had just become the Dallas Texans. They were the New York Yanks just a year before. So here's what we need to do. We need to introduce Burt Bell, and we need to introduce Giles Miller, and we need to talk about Kate Smith. But I think we can do that all at the same time.
You've had a lot of faith in me. I think.
I'm gonna set you up, and you're gonna take the ball to use the metaphor. So they're the New York Yanks, professional football franchise,
right?
Hemorrhaging money, right?
Yep.
And there's a colorful commissioner of the NFL, Burt Bell.
Right.
Let's start there.
Right. Okay. So Burt Bell was he was this Philadelphia blue blood through and through. He came from a really wealthy family. I think one of his family members was the attorney general for the state of Pennsylvania. But Burt Bell was sort of like the family's wild child. He played for Penn and was a degenerate gambler at Penn. And in fact, once bet everything he had, plus a car that his dad had just bought him, on a Penn game that he was playing in as quarterback, and lost it all. So he goes on, but his one great true love throughout his entire life was football. Just committed his entire life to it, and eventually becomes an owner. He was a player, he was then an owner, and then he became commissioner. And we talk about him because he is such a colorful character. But every NFL fan today should know who he is, because he really, during this era that we were talking about where it's chaotic and teams are going bankrupt and nobody knows who's going to survive from week to week, it was Burt Bell, the commissioner, who really kept the league, kept the league connected and helped it survive from literally single-handedly. He invented the reverse draft order. He invented the scheduling that helped with parity. He fought off all these different mergers. So anybody who enjoys the game today owes a debt of gratitude to Bert Bell. But he really was this larger than life, bombastic, just bulldog of a guy who just really just kind of like, he just ruled the league just through his own sort of like strength and cult of personality. And one of the big things the problems that he had was, okay, here's the second part of your answer. Kate Smith was essentially the Taylor Swift of her time.
Right.
Just
and for sports fans in the NHL, Philadelphia Flyers, I'm from South Jersey, so I know this history very well, Flyers fan. So Kate Smith would later become famous for singing God Bless America before the Flyers games, home games.
Right.
There is a statue of her, or there was outside the Spectrum, the old Spectrum. I haven't been to the new Spectrum, but very revered. So yes, so she is this famous singer. How does she get involved in professional football in 1951, 1952?
So she's so popular she's got like radio shows and television shows, and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, she really was sort of the Madonna or the Taylor Swift of her time. And I think she was so popular. She helped raise, I think it was this is in the 1940s. She raised $500 million for the war effort. So that gives you an idea of like sort of her power and reach. But she's making so much money along with her business associate, Ted Collins, that they don't know what to do. They need tax shelters. And at the time, we've already talked about this. If you wanted to buy a business that was going to lose piles of money so that you could write it off, you would invest in the NFL.
It's like the producers.
Exactly. And so Kate Smith's business associate and manager, Ted Collins, buys the New York Yanks, and they proceed to lose, I think, even more than he had hoped or could afford. Over like 5 to 8 years, they lose more, I think close to $2 million. And in 1951, Ted finally gives up and turns the team back over to Bert Bell and the NFL. And that then creates this vacuum where for competitive and scheduling balance, Bert Bell needs a 12th team. And so in his rush to fill that 12th spot, he looks around and goes, oh, I think there are some investors / suckers in Dallas who would buy this team, who would buy the worst team ever and take them to Dallas. And that's when he found Giles Miller.
And at this point, the NFL is not in the South. There is not a professional franchise in the South. And we need to mentally take ourselves back to the South in the late 40s, early 50s. Enter Giles Miller. Who was Giles Miller?
Yeah, so Giles Miller is the son of Clarence Miller, who at the time was known as the textile king of the Southwest. I think he owned the largest textile manufacturing west of the Mississippi. So it was really Clarence Miller's money, but his son Giles was really his kind of like, just think of this sort of classic 1950s dreamer, schemer, constantly sort of failing upward, just constantly like investing in oil wells and they're running dry. But it's Giles Miller and his deep love of college football, high school football, Texas football.
He's the Cotton Bowl.
Right. The Cotton Bowl is like right in Dallas. He's watched his high school teams play there, SMU play there. And he's the one who is like, had the idea to bring the NFL to Dallas. And again, in context, it sounds like a great idea. It's Texas, it's Dallas. What could possibly go wrong, right? I mean, who could go bankrupt selling football in Texas? But Giles managed to do it and did it in record time.
What's your favorite fact about John Quincy Adams? Was it that he is the only former president to serve in Congress after his term as president? Or maybe it's the fact that he literally died at his desk in the Capitol of the United States. Well, you can read all about this in my new book, America's Founding Son, John Quincy Adams, From President to Political Maverick. It's hitting bookstore shelves soon, so pre-order your copy today.
What's up, fam? I'm sports journalist Ari Chambers.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Sam J.
And we're the hosts of Everyone Watches Women's Sports, a new podcast from Together and iHeart Women's Sports.
Because let's be real, women's sports is giving us way too much to talk about these days.
The highlights, the rivalries, the breakout stars, the moments that take over your entire timeline.
And the conversations that start during the game and somehow keep going all week.
Every week, we're breaking down the biggest stories across women's sports.
We'll give you our takes, our debates, and probably a few disagreements.
We'll talk to athletes, celebrate big moments, and get into what's happening on and off the field, court, track, and beyond.
Because we're not just interested in what happened, we're interested in why everyone's talking about it. Because everyone watches women's sports. So if you're already a fan,
or you're just getting into the game, there's a seat for you right here.
Listen to Everyone Watches Women's Sports
on the iHeartRadio app,
Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, I'm Hoda Kotb, host of the podcast Joy 101 with Hoda Kotb. Okay, if you know me, you know this. I'm always searching for inspiration, for support, and useful tools to help maximize joy. So this podcast lets us uncover all of that together. We're going to have these meaningful conversations with the world's most fascinating people, like when actress Olivia Munn shared how she overcame fierce health challenges that she never saw coming.
I've gone through breast cancer and then helped my mother through breast cancer, and that was more difficult. There's a lot of people who understand postpartum depression. I was not prepared for postpartum anxiety.
Olympic champ Shawn Johnson revealed why she had no choice but to be a gymnast.
There was something about gymnastics that was intoxicating to me. It's given me a belief that we all have one of those treasures inside of us. We just have to find it.
Listen to Joy 101 with Hoda Kotb on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
My first guest is Paris Hilton, Shakira, Luke and Yerin, Samira y Gracie. I'm so excited.
On the bouncy bed.
You have surprises?
Many surprises.
Welcome to Suite 305, where the group chat comes to life. What up? Es como que una forma de decir como, hola amiga, hola mejor amiga, hola hermana, what up?
Mira, nunca lo había hablado con nadie. Excepto con mis hijos. Mis hijos sí saben. Yes.
Sé mi amante.
Uf. Punch. Qué increíble. Ya, la telenovela.
You're the only person I know that loves a yellow starburst. It's lemonade.
No hay alguien que te falta, como que tú dices, me gustaría colaborar con esta persona. This is Suite 305. Listen to Suite 305 with Lele Pons as part of My Cultura podcast network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, it's the Jonas Brothers. This week on the podcast, Hey Jonas, we're hanging out with the one, the only, and the one, Michael Bublé.
You guys, I'm genuinely a huge fan. Like, it's funny, you know, I made a whole thing about doing this TikTok where I got you guys to sign the guitar, but right. It was real. Like, we listen to you in the car all the time. Like, it literally is hanging up with all your signatures.
Wow. I am so honored. After Kevin's recent, let's call it interesting confession about Michael, I had a feeling this wasn't going to be going away. We figured there's only one thing to do. We must invite Michael Bublé on the podcast, and we want to know what's on his Sexy Time playlist.
You know, I did an interview, and they're like, have you heard about this Jonas Brothers thing? And they were like, what did you think of it? And I was like, well, I mean, it's reciprocal. Like, what a man got to do? What a man got to do?
We talk about Kevin's confession, Michael's reaction, and a whole lot more. Do you have a hockey rink in your house?
I do.
Our conversation with Michael Bublé is out now. Listen to Hey Jonas on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is American History Hotline. I'm your host, Bob Crawford. Today, my guest is David Fleming, author of the book, A Big Mess in Texas, The Miraculous, Disastrous 1952 Dallas Texans, and the craziest untold story in NFL history. We're talking about some wild times in football history, and we're talking about integration of the league. Remember to send us your burning questions about American history. Record yourself using your voice memo app on your phone and email it to americanhistoryhotline@gmail.com. That's americanhistoryhotline@gmail.com. Now back to the show. To get to our listener's question, who were the two black stars on the team, and was either of them like the Jackie Robinson of football?
Yes, I mean that is the perfect way. That's the perfect way to describe these guys. And in fact, men like Tony Dungy, Hall of Fame coach Tony Dungy, has described them as the Jackie Robinsons of the NFL. And not to pat myself on the back, but we really got from Kate Smith to Burt Bell to Giles Miller, and not right into. I mean, you're a pro. I gotta say.
Look, I drew up the play. And you executed it.
Look at that. It's film study.
That's right.
So Giles Miller, again, we talked about him as a dreamer and a schemer and sort of a guy who just constantly sort of failed upward. Well, he buys the New York Yanks, and immediately the newspapers, everything. The big issue is the New York Yanks have their three best players are black. And over the summer, one of them gets traded, but there is still plans are moving ahead. And Giles Miller says, to his credit, even despite the atmosphere and what it was like in Dallas, which in the 30s was essentially the epicenter of the Ku Klux Klan, and was the Jim Crow laws in Dallas and throughout the South, just draconian and just awful to even imagine, which that not being that long ago. But Giles Miller, to his credit, because I should say, this is kind of a really interesting side note to the story. Giles Miller, because he was grew up rich and wealthy on the north side of Dallas, those families, it was very common, those families, he was raised essentially by his family's black butler. And Giles Miller always...
Not uncommon for that time period.
Exactly. And you see how these little sort of accidents of culture create big change, because Giles Miller said, I've got these great black players. How can I look that man who is essentially my father? How can I look him in the eye if I were to trade them or cut them just because they were black? So Giles Miller says from the very beginning, I don't care what the atmosphere is like in Dallas. Our team is going to be, the roster of our team is going to be filled with players, the best players, regardless of race, creed, religion, etc. And it was a beautiful sentiment and a courageous sentiment, but it was also incredibly naive for Giles not to understand what that meant, not just to the players, but to the team, to his own sort of bank account. And that's why I'm so glad you brought up this part. And I think one of the reasons why this team has been forgotten and sort of erased from NFL history is that people do tend to sort of nostalgically whitewash the reason why the last NFL team went bankrupt. And it's essentially because the Dallas Texans' two best players were Buddy Young and George Taliaferro. And Dallas and Texas as a whole simply would not support a team with an integrated roster.
What sort of pushback did these men face while they were in Dallas, living in Dallas, playing for this team?
So George Taliaferro, who was, by the way, great timing because he was really the first iconic star at Indiana, and he led Indiana in the mid 1940s to before recently their only sort of undisputed Big Ten championship. George Taliaferro then was also the first black player to be drafted by the NFL. And if depending on the semantics of what you call a quarterback, I think George Taliaferro was also one of the first black quarterbacks in modern NFL history. So he really does sort of live up to this Jackie Robinson label. He also helped,
and he's been forgotten.
Yes, yeah,
and he's not. Is he represented in the Hall of Fame anywhere? I mean, I hate to admit that I've not been to Canton. I mean, is he? To your knowledge?
He's not. No, he's not in Canton. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame, but I don't understand how all that he accomplished, that he couldn't be in Canton. It's another sort of blemish on the Hall of Fame's credentials. But he also, by the way, single-handedly helped integrate Bloomington. He used his football stardom to sort of gain access to all the places that Black people couldn't go, at restaurants and movie theaters and whatnot. So he really was, he was a hero. He was a courageous pioneer, and his quotes about knowing that he would have to be careful in Dallas because he could get lynched are maybe the most chilling moments in an otherwise pretty sort of like laid back book. But you understand, the first thing he had to realize was George Telfairo and Buddy Young were not allowed to live with the rest of the players. They had to live in a section of Dallas that there were still 12 unsolved house bombings for Black families that had dared to move just a little bit closer to white Dallas. And those bombings no one was ever convicted of those bombings. And that's the atmosphere they have to move into while playing professional football.
Were Blacks at the time allowed to attend the games? Were they allowed to attend NFL games in Dallas?
They were. It was just hyper segregated. So in the Cotton Bowl was essentially, in the 1950s Jim Crow Dallas, the Cotton Bowl and the State Fair, they were monuments to segregation, to the sort of racist policies and the white supremacy that was going on. And the Cotton Bowl, Black fans were allowed to stand in this roped off section of the Cotton Bowl that was in the sun. And another thing that Giles Miller promised was, we've got an integrated roster. We're going to welcome the Black community as our fans. It's going to be, this team is for everyone. And again, great sentiment. And it was a lovely promise, but he was too naive to understand that was never going to happen. And so Giles makes all these promises, and this part of the community in Dallas is very excited to be included and represented. They show up for the first game, and that not only are they not welcome, the restrictions are even greater. And basically after that first game, the Black community then boycotted the Dallas Texans.
The first game, if I recall from the book, correct me if I'm wrong, against the Giants.
Yes.
And the Giants had a player on that team that, I'm 54, men of my age will remember Tom Landry as the coach, as the buttoned up coach, finely dressed coach of the Dallas Cowboys of the 1970s. But at this point, he's on the Giants.
Yeah.
And they're playing the Texans.
Yeah. And it is one of the aspects, the Tom Landry stuff is one of the aspects of this story that I love. And I think all NFL fans will love is that this team seems to be connected. They're connected to your Rams. They're connected to, I think it was something like a dozen eventual Hall of Famers, whether it's in the NFL Hall of Fame, the College Football Hall of Fame, or the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. They've got World War I and World War II veterans. They've got all these crazy stories, and one of the connections that sort of makes them the Forrest Gump of the NFL is this Tom Landry story, and that Tom Landry, so that would be 8 years before he took over as the iconic Cowboys coach. He helped the Dallas Texans score their first touchdown. And it was in the season opener in the Cotton Bowl. Tom Landry drops back to catch a punt. He fumbles it, and the Dallas Texans collect the ball, and that's how they score the first touchdown in Dallas Texans history, is because of the butterfingered Tom Landry.
I'll be thinking about special teams until September of next year.
It's too soon. It's too soon. I'm sorry.
It's very much too soon. Tell me about this Thanksgiving Day game against the Chicago Bears. I mean, first of all, were the Bears as iconic then as they are now?
Yes, I would say even more so, right? Because So the Texans, despite the fact that they're loaded and they've got a lot of talent, I think they're so distracted by worrying about checks bouncing and drinking and sort of they end up, I think they lose their first 9 games in a row. The league then takes the franchise back and places them in, of all places, Hershey, Pennsylvania. And so the Texans, to sort of get back at the league, they go on a month-long bender in Hershey, Pennsylvania, that people in Hershey, Pennsylvania are still talking about to this day. It would make Jimmy Johnson's Dallas Cowboys blush what was going on.
Wow.
In Hershey, Pennsylvania. But they're supposed to play the Bears, the George Halas Chicago Bears, who are in contention for the NFL title in 1952. They're supposed to play the Bears in Dallas on Thanksgiving. Well, they can't because the team is no longer in Dallas. So Bert Bell comes up with this great idea that they're going to have the Bears and the Texans are going to play each other on Thanksgiving in Akron, Ohio, as the second part of a doubleheader. And the first game of the day is going to be a high school football game. So the Bears and the Texans show up to the Rubber Bowl in Akron, Ohio, and there's 30,000 fans there. And at the end of the high school football game, 28,500 of those fans get up and leave. And so the Bears and the Texans are now inside what is essentially an empty football stadium, and they have to play their Thanksgiving game. And everybody's mad. Everybody's angry. Nobody wants to play this game. And as a gesture of goodwill, George Halas puts his backups on the field to start the game. And Bob, this is honestly like a classic, like sports movie moment. George Halas meant it as a nice gesture. The Texans took it as the final last insult. And it was this moment where they were like, we're not taking this anymore. And they rally, they get so angry. They sort of, everything comes together. All the talent gels, and they end up beating the Chicago Bears basically in front of 500 fans in Akron, Ohio, in a game that basically nobody watched or paid attention to, but the Chicago Tribune called it the greatest upset in NFL history.
What happens after the game?
So George Halas is so mad because he understands, right, that they're now connected. George Halas himself is connected to the worst upset in NFL history. He is, as his players are walking back to the locker room, he's kicking them all in the backside. And then again, because the players were away from their families, they serve them all like turkey dinners on trays. Well, George Halas is so mad, he goes up and down the aisles and he's smacking the trays of Thanksgiving dinner out of his players' laps. And he's saying, you bums don't deserve Thanksgiving this year.
So just, I mean, everything about, like, I was telling you before that I rewatched the intro to NFL Today, which was like it was the, like people watched Fox, you watch the pregame, NFL show. Anyway, it was the one, as I recall, of my youth. It was on CBS. It was like Brent Musburger and Phyllis George, Jimmy the Greek, Irv Cross. Anyway, every football play that is featured in the montage of the introduction is now a penalty. If you go on YouTube and I mean, seriously, there's nothing is legal that is in this montage of clips. It's just incredible. So what happens to the Texans at the end of that 1952 season?
Well, so they go on this epic bender in Hershey.
And by bender, you mean we're talking Animal House here.
Oh, full on. Yes. They have a defensive lineman named Chubby Grigg, and he was basically around 350 pounds, and that was 70 years ago, right? Or 70, so
He was the John Belushi of this,
Yes, he would. He was famous for eating 4 hot dogs during the halftime of every game, and he would put like his parka over his head and thinking no one could see him, and then he would eat his 4 hot dogs and then go back out on the field. But Art Donovan described him as a sort of West Texas psychopath, and he really was. And in Hershey, he was famous for he would line up 17 grasshopper shots, which is like cream to mint and cream to cocoa, and we're both cringing right now thinking about.
I'm sorry that I know this.
Yeah, me too. It was like the espresso martini of the 1950s, right?
That's right. It had its moment.
Everyone has a bad story associated with an espresso martini, but so he would line up 17 shots, and then he would pick a teammate, and everybody was so afraid of him nobody would say no. And the game was you had to race Chubby to the middle of the row of these shots, and whoever drank the 9th shot, the odd number shot, won. And there's this great story of Chubby doing that, and the players staying in this bar in Hershey for so long that they had essentially been snowed in. And Chubby does his grasshopper game. He vomits and passes out, and the players have to borrow a kid's sled and put Chubby's passed out body on the sled, and they have to pull him through the streets of Hershey to get back to the team hotel by curfew.
So we talked about that Buddy Young and George Taliaferro have been forgotten. What happens to them immediately after the Texans? What becomes of them?
Yes, sorry, and I got carried away with Chubby stories and not.
You can't get too carried away.
And that is a big part of this story. And one of my favorites is, so the Texans, out of this mess, out of this just embarrassing, bankrupt disaster, the Texans eventually become, and this is another reason why they've been erased. They become the NFL, the button down, business-like, all-American Johnny Unitas Baltimore Colts, the team that essentially saves the NFL. And so I don't think the NFL really wants people to know that they think it tarnishes the Baltimore Colts, their place in history. But the Colts were born out of this disaster that we've been talking about. It's my favorite part of the whole story. But Buddy Young and George Taliaferro and Art Donovan and Gino Marchetti, they all then move on and essentially become the foundation of this really important and incredible Baltimore Colts franchise.
We can't neglect to tell the audience that the 1952 championship was played between the Detroit Lions and the Cleveland Browns, and Detroit won that game.
Yes. Yep.
So history, all kinds of things. If you fall in love with history, you learn all kinds of things that are mind-blowing and unbelievable. Because if that pairing ever pops up again in a Super Bowl, that would be, at this point, from where we stand now, would be incredible. Okay, so who you got for the big game?
Oh man. So I think I love what the Patriots are doing, but I feel like the NFC is much stronger this year. And I feel like the Seahawks, I hope it's close. I don't even think it's going to be close. I think the Seahawks win in a walkover.
They have a great defense to complement what Sam Darnold is doing there. As a Rams fan, I would love to see Cooper Kupp win another Super Bowl. That'd be a great ending story for him if you follow what happened to him on the Rams. So I have to agree with you. It's hard for me to pull for Seattle, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
we're in North Carolina. We've got the Drake May connection.
Right. And that's why I'm nervous about what that Seahawks defense on the biggest stage. And I've talked to quarterbacks who were very young when they played in the Super Bowl. And what you'll see is it's so overwhelming. The whole thing, right? The 2 weeks leading up to it, and all the hype and all the stuff that especially the younger quarterbacks, they fall off a cliff in the third quarter because they're exhausted, right? It's like everything catches up with them in the third quarter. So yeah, I'm rooting for Drake May. Gosh, his family lives just down the road from where I'm at, but he'll get back. And but boy, that Seahawks defense, I would not want to be Drake May. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know how Mike Vrabel's preparing him for this game.
Yeah, and
a man who's experienced at the big game.
Yeah, and I think I think that's the thing. Even if you stay on them and you're like, do as little as you can and get your sleep and try not to sort of get taken away by all the hype. It doesn't matter. It's still the game day itself is so long and so protracted and so over the top that that's what's funny is it's the players that I always knew Tom Brady when he was younger. Tom Brady, there's this great story about when Tom Brady was a young quarterback at the Super Bowl. They couldn't find him pregame because he had gone somewhere and fallen asleep and taken this incredible nap before the Super Bowl. And people were like, that's when we knew Tom Brady was different.
Yeah. Well, and of course that Super Bowl was against the Rams and
I'm sorry. You're going to hang up on me.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's the one where the Patriots filmed the Rams practice the day before. So
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Boy, well, I'm hitting. Are there any other terrible Rams?
You know what? I may have. I just want to make this point before we part ways. I may have drawn up the play, and you may have executed it to perfection. But the general manager of this show is James Morrison, and we need to give producer James Morrison all the credit he deserves here. I've been talking to David Fleming, author of the book A Big Mess in Texas: The Miraculous, Disastrous 1952 Dallas Texans and the Craziest Untold Story in NFL History. I cannot recommend this book enough. It is just with everything going on in the world, do yourself a favor and read this book and just take a deep breath and just feel good for a little while. David, thank you for joining us on American History Hotline today. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Bob.
You've been listening to American History Hotline, a production of iHeart Podcasts and Scratch Track Productions. The show's executive producer is James Morrison. Our executive producers from iHeart are Jordan Runtaw and Jason English. Original music composed by me, Bob Crawford. Please keep in touch. Our email is americanhistoryhotline@gmail.com. If you like the show, please tell your friends and leave us a review in Apple Podcasts. I'm your host, Bob Crawford. Feel free to hit me up on social media to ask a history question or to let me know what you think of the show. You can find me at Bob Crawford Base. Thanks so much for listening. See you next week.
What's up, fam? It's sports journalist Ari Chambers.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Sam J.
And we're the hosts of Everyone Watches Women's Sports, a new podcast from Together.
We're breaking down the biggest headlines, the viral moments, and the stories everyone's talking about across women's sports.
From game-changing performances to culture-shifting conversations, we'll give you our takes, our debates, and a few laughs along the way.
Because everyone watches women's sports. Listen to Everyone Watches Women's Sports
on the iHeartRadio app,
Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Joy is essential and it's also elusive. But now there's a new and exciting way to start your journey toward a more joyful existence. Joy 101. It's a new podcast hosted by me, Hoda Kotb. If you're craving inspiration to maximize your joy, tune into these candid, uplifting, and moving on-air chats. Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Joy 101, and listen now. Joy 101 with Hoda Kotb is presented by CVS.
I'm Jake Brennan, and on the Disgraceland podcast, I explore the wild lives of rock stars and unbelievable true crime stories from music history. These are the stories you haven't heard, the kind you'll end up telling someone else. Like the time Paul McCartney spent in a notorious prison, or the bizarre crime Lady Gaga is accused of, or that time Blondie's Debbie Harry escaped Ted Bundy. Listen to Disgraceland on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
My first guest is Paris Hilton, Shakira, Luke, and Yerin. Have surprises?
Many surprises.
Welcome to the Sweet 305 podcast, where the group chat comes to life.
What up? You're the only person I know that loves a yellow Starburst. It's lemonade.
This is Sweet 305. Here, oversharing is encouraged. Listen to Sweet 305 with Lele Pons on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Este comercial es para convencerte de no manejar a exceso de velocidad. No podemos usar sirenas en la radio, así que usaremos otros sonidos igual de impactantes para que pongas atención. Si manejas un poco o mucho sobre el límite de velocidad, igual puedes chocar. Puedes lastimarte o, peor aún, lastimar a otros.
Estoy en escena del choque.
Y el daño que causes será irreparable. ¿Ves? No tuvimos que usar sonidos de choques o ambulancias. El exceso de velocidad no vale la pena. Traído por Netza.